Millionaire offers $12 million in a chess game with his maid's 7-year-old daughter as a joke, but she leaves him pale with one move. Before the story begins, tell us what brought you here today. A recommendation, curiosity, or perhaps just destiny guiding you. If you enjoy this reflection, please like this video and follow our channel so you don't miss what comes next. The crystal chandelier cast a golden glow across Richard Harrington's palatial living room as Seattle's elite mingled below. At 32, Richard had everything: tech empire, penthouse overlooking Puget Sound, and more money than he could spend in 3 lifetimes. What he lacked was genuine challenge. Another boring charity gala? Jason Matthews slapped Richard's shoulder, champagne sloshing dangerously close to his custom Armani suit. "Necessary evils," Richard replied, scanning the room with practiced disinterest. His gaze landed on Anna Wilson, his housekeeper of 8 months, efficiently directing catering staff with quiet authority. Something about her had always intrigued him: the perfect posture, the careful speech, those eyes that seemed to evaluate everything with mathematical precision. Richard excused himself from Jason and wove through the crowd. As he approached Anna, a small figure darted from behind a column and collided with his legs. "Sophie!" Anna rushed forward, her composed demeanor slipping. "I'm so sorry, Mr. Harrington. The babysitter cancelled last minute." Richard looked down at the girl, 7 years old, with serious brown eyes and her mother's analytical gaze. "No harm done, Anna." The child stared up at him without the intimidation adults usually displayed. "You have a nice chess set, Mr. Harrington." Richard raised an eyebrow. "You play chess?" "Mom teaches me," Sophie answered simply. Anna's cheeks flushed. "Just the basics. I should get her upstairs." "Nonsense," Richard said, an idea forming. The party bored him. This was at least amusing. "Let's see these chess skills." 20 minutes later, the antique chess set from his study sat on the garden terrace table. Several guests gathered, cocktails in hand, amused by the spectacle of the tech billionaire humoring a child. "Let's make this interesting," Richard announced, the bourbon warming his veins. $12 million if you win, Sophie." The crowd laughed. Anna's face went rigid. "Mr. Harrington, this isn't appropriate. It's just a game, Anna." Richard winked at the guests. "Besides, what are the chances?" Sophie sat straight-backed in the chair, her legs dangling above the floor. "White moves first," she said quietly. Richard grinned and moved his pawn. 3 moves later, his smile faltered. 6 moves in, the crowd grew silent. When Sophie's knight pinned his queen against his king, Richard's face drained of color. "Where did you learn to play like that?" he whispered. Sophie glanced at her mother, whose knuckles had gone white around a serving tray. "Mom's the best player in the world," she said proudly. "She just doesn't let people know." Richard stared at the chessboard, his mind spinning faster than when negotiating million-dollar deals. The spectators had disappeared, leaving only himself, Sophie, and Anna on the moonlit terrace. The girl's words echoed, "Mom's the best player in the world." "Check," Sophie said softly, moving her bishop. Richard countered automatically, then studied Anna, who stood perfectly still, her expression unreadable. How had he never noticed the calluses on her fingertips, the mark of someone who'd spent thousands of hours moving chess pieces? "You're not just Anna Wilson, are you?" he asked. Anna's gaze remained fixed on the board. "I should get Sophie to bed." "Checkmate," Sophie announced, toppling Richard's king with a gentle push. The piece rolled across the marble table, landing at Anna's feet. A heavy silence settled between them before Richard laughed, not the practiced chuckle he used at board meetings, but a genuine sound of wonder. "Seems I owe you $12 million, young lady." "Richard," Anna's voice carried a warning, "you know that was just—" "I know exactly what I said," he interrupted, studying her with new interest. "Elizabeth Winters." Anna flinched at the name. That's you, isn't it? The chess prodigy who disappeared 6 years ago after the Moscow championship. Richard leaned forward. You were accused of cheating, then vanished before the final match. Sophie, wait inside, please, Anna said quietly. Once the child had gone, Anna's shoulders straightened. I didn't cheat. But when the accusations came, I had a 6-month-old daughter and no support system. Fighting would have meant years of legal battles I couldn't afford. Her eyes, usually downcast in his presence, now met his directly. I needed to protect Sophie. Richard gestured to his mansion. So you ended up cleaning houses? I ended up doing what was necessary, she replied evenly. And it's Anna now. Elizabeth doesn't exist anymore. Richard studied her, seeing not his housekeeper, but a woman who had sacrificed everything for her child. Something shifted in his chest, respect, curiosity, perhaps both. The money, Anna said suddenly. Sophie knows you weren't serious. We don't expect... I always honor my bets, Richard interrupted, but I have a different proposition. A chess tournament is coming up next month with a $20 million prize. With a proper coach, Sophie could... No. Anna's voice was steel. No tournaments, no publicity, no chess world. I left that life behind. Then why teach Sophie? Anna's expression softened. Because chess is truth. It's the one place where a 7-year-old girl and a billionaire stand as equals, where only your mind matters. Richard stood, moving closer. What if I promised protection? No one would have to know your history. Why would you do that? Richard couldn't answer, couldn't explain the strange feeling taking root as he looked at this woman who had hidden herself in plain sight. A woman who had outplayed the world. Because, he said finally, I believe everyone deserves a second chance. And as Anna gathered the chess pieces, her sleeve pulled back, revealing a small tattoo on her wrist, a queen chess piece with a crown of thorns. The morning light streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Richard's study as he scrolled through archived chess tournament footage. On screen, a younger Elizabeth Winters, Anna, moved pieces with mesmerizing precision, her opponents crumbling one by one. Hiding in plain sight, he murmured, pausing on a frame where she accepted a trophy, smiling cautiously at the camera. The same woman who had spent months quietly managing his household, invisible by design. The door opened, and Anna entered with his usual morning coffee. How long have you known? She asked, setting down the cup. I stayed up all night researching. Richard turned the screen toward her. 15 international championships, 3 world records for fastest checkmates. Dubbed the Silent Queen for your uncanny ability to win without speaking a word during matches. Anna's fingers trembled slightly as she straightened papers on his desk. That life is over. What really happened in Moscow? She stiffened. I told you. You said you didn't cheat. I believe you, but there's more. Richard stood, closing the distance between them. The accusations came after you beat Dmitry Petrov, ending his 10-year reign. The security footage that supposedly showed you receiving signals was never released. Your male competitors rallied against you while the Federation remained suspiciously silent. You've done your homework, Anna said quietly. I recognize a corporate takedown when I see one, Richard replied. Someone wanted you gone. Anna met his gaze, something shifting behind her eyes. Sophie's father, Victor Renault. A chess federation executive who promised to leave his wife, then orchestrated my downfall when I threatened to expose our relationship. Her voice hardened. He said no one would believe me over him. So you disappeared. I became invisible, she corrected. Changed my name, moved continents, raised my daughter away from that toxic world. Richard struggled to reconcile this fierce, brilliant woman with his quiet housekeeper. Why work for me? With your mind, you could... Do what? Anna challenged. Chess was my only marketable skill. I had a fake identity, no verifiable employment history, and a child to support. She gestured around the study. Your background checks were thorough, but focused on criminal history, not chess championships. Richard felt a strange twist of guilt. He'd paid her minimum wage plus room and board, while she'd been serving a man who'd made his fortune through strategic thinking, her specialty. Sophie has your gift, he said. Anna's expression softened. She's better than I ever was. Chess came to me through discipline. It flows through her naturally. She deserves the chance to develop that talent. What she deserves is safety, Anna countered. The chess world destroyed me. I won't let it touch her. Richard moved to the window, looking out at the Seattle skyline. What if there was a way to protect you both while letting her play? No one would need to know you're Elizabeth Winters. Why would you do this for us? Richard turned, surprising himself with his answer. Because for the first time in years, I've found something more interesting than making money. Just then, Sophie appeared in the doorway, chess book in hand. Mom, can we practice the Sicilian defense today? Anna and Richard exchanged a long look over the child's head, a silent negotiation between two strategic minds. Perhaps, Anna said carefully, Mr. Harrington would like to join us. A knight to d5, Sophie declared, making the move with confidence. Richard leaned back in his garden chair, impressed despite himself. It had been 3 weeks since the revelation, and daily chess lessons had become their ritual. Anna sat nearby, watching their game with a critical eye. Interesting choice, Richard mused, studying the board. Aggressive. Mom says hesitation is defeat, Sophie replied, swinging her legs beneath the table. Richard glanced at Anna, who shrugged. Chess is life. You commit or you lose. Is that why you never fought the accusations? The question slipped out before Richard could stop it. Anna's expression cooled. That was different. Was it? Richard captured Sophie's knight. Check. Sophie frowned, considering the board with intense concentration. The resemblance to her mother was striking, the same furrow between the brows, the same analytical gaze. Sacrifice the bishop, Anna suggested quietly. Sophie nodded, making the move. Sometimes you give up something important to win something bigger. A valuable lesson, Richard agreed, moving his queen. One your mother taught you well. She teaches me everything, Sophie said proudly. Mum says chess is the only place where a little girl can beat the whole world. The words hit Richard unexpectedly. In his world of tech and finance, power came from wealth, connections, and often gender. In chess, none of that mattered. Your move, Mr. Harrington, Sophie prompted. As Richard contemplated the board, his phone chimed. The screen displayed a news alert. Chess Federation reopens investigation into Elizabeth Winters' cheating scandal. Anna's sharp intake of breath told him she'd seen it too. Sophie, go get us some lemonade, please. When the child left, Anna snatched Richard's phone. This is exactly what I feared. Someone's digging again. The timing's suspicious, Richard agreed. Right after Sophie played at my party. There were donors there from the chess world, Anna said, pacing now. Someone must have recognized her style, made the connection. Or someone's been watching for you, Richard suggested. Someone who never believed you were gone. Anna's face paled. Victor. Your ex? Richard moved closer. Sophie's father. He's never acknowledged her, Anna said bitterly, but he's obsessed with legacy. If he discovered his daughter is a chess prodigy. Richard's protective instincts flared. He can't touch her. I'll make sure of it. You don't understand. Victor has connections everywhere. If he finds us... Anna. Richard gripped her shoulders gently. You're not alone anymore. She stared at him, vulnerability and strength warring in her expression. For a moment Richard thought she might pull away, but instead she let out a shaky breath. I've been alone for so long, she whispered, fighting everyone. Not any more, Richard promised, surprising himself with how much he meant it. Sophie returned with lemonade, oblivious to the tension. "I figured out how to beat your strategy, Mr. Harrington." Richard turned to her with a forced smile. "Did you now?" As they resumed their game, Richard's mind raced. He'd built an empire by outthinking competitors. Now he needed those skills for something more important than business. Anna watched them play, her phone clutched tightly in her hand. When it buzzed with an incoming text, her face went white. She showed Richard the screen. "I know where you and my daughter are. This time, you won't escape." "Absolutely not." Anna paced Richard's office, her normally composed demeanor fractured. "I won't use Sophie as bait." Richard leaned against his desk, arms crossed. "It's not bait, it's reclaiming your narrative." 1 month had passed since Victor's threat. Rather than running, Anna had reluctantly accepted Richard's offer to stay at his estate under enhanced security. Richard's proposal now, entering Sophie in a children's chess tournament, had ignited their first serious argument. "You don't understand what Victor is capable of," Anna insisted. "He destroyed my career with a whisper campaign. He has judges and officials in his pocket." "Which is exactly why hiding isn't working," Richard countered. "He's found you anyway. The only way to neutralize him is to beat him at his own game." Anna stopped pacing. "By exposing Sophie to the chess world, the very thing I've protected her from. By showing the world who Elizabeth Winters really is," Richard said softly, "a mother who taught her daughter to play better than anyone." Something shifted in Anna's expression. "You want me to come forward?" Richard nodded. "I've hired the best PR team and lawyers. We release your story on your terms, how you were framed, how you protected your daughter, everything. We control the narrative before Victor can. And Sophie plays openly as my daughter." Anna sank into a chair. "You make it sound so simple." "It won't be," Richard acknowledged. "But you've been running for 6 years, Anna. Maybe it's time to stand and fight." The door creaked open, and Sophie peered in. "Mom, are you fighting with Mr. Harrington?" Anna composed her features instantly. "No, sweetheart, we're discussing chess." Sophie entered fully, clutching a worn chess book. "I've been practicing the Queen's Gambit like you showed me." Richard smiled at the irony. The Queen's Gambit, a chess opening where one sacrifices a pawn for positional advantage. Perhaps that's what they needed now, a strategic sacrifice to win the larger battle. "Sophie," Richard knelt to the child's level, "how would you feel about playing in a real chess tournament, with other kids?" Sophie's eyes widened. "Like the ones in Mum's old pictures?" Anna shot Richard a sharp look. He hadn't known Sophie had seen those. "Yes," he continued, "but people might recognize your mom. They might say things about her, untrue things." Sophie considered this with a seriousness beyond her years. "Would we stop hiding?" The question hung in the air, heavy with implications. Anna crossed to her daughter, brushing back her hair. "Is that what you think we've been doing? Hiding?" "You use a different name," Sophie said simply. "You never play chess with anyone but me, and you get scared when people watch us too long." Anna closed her eyes briefly, absorbing the child's perception. When she opened them, determination had replaced fear. "Yes, we've been hiding, but maybe we don't need to anymore." Richard watched them, these 2 remarkable females who had entered his life by chance. Something protective and fierce rose in his chest, something he'd never felt for his companies or wealth. "Whatever you decide," he said, "I'll back you completely." Anna met his gaze over Sophie's head. For the first time, she looked at him not as her employer, but as a partner in something larger than either of them. "The Northwestern Children's Chess Open is in 3 weeks, she said finally. "If we're doing this, Sophie needs intensive training." "And you?" Richard asked. "Are you ready to be Elizabeth Winters again?" Anna straightened her shoulders. Elizabeth Winters was framed and ran away. I'm not her anymore. She took Sophie's hand. I'm Anna Wilson, and I'm done running. As they left the office, Richard's phone chimed with a message from his security team. Subject Victor Renault booked flight to Seattle. Arrival tomorrow. Camera flashes exploded like lightning as Anna stepped into the Seattle Convention Center, Sophie's hand clasped firmly in hers. Richard followed close behind, his security team creating a protective barrier around them. Elizabeth Winters, is it true you're making a comeback? Ms. Winters, were the cheating allegations false? Is this your daughter? Will she be competing today? Anna ignored the questions, her gaze fixed straight ahead. 6 years of invisibility had ended with Richard's press release yesterday. Former chess champion Elizabeth Winters to address false allegations, accompanied by daughter and tech CEO Richard Harrington. The media had erupted. The chess world was in chaos, and Victor Renault had gone ominously silent. You're doing great, Richard murmured, his hand resting lightly on Anna's back. They reached the tournament registration desk, where Sophie would officially enter the Northwestern Children's Chess Open. The registrar's eyes widened in recognition. Ms. Winters, we weren't expecting you. It's Anna Wilson now, she corrected firmly. And this is my daughter, Sophie Wilson. She's registered for the under-8 division. As the woman processed the paperwork, Richard scanned the crowded hall. Security had confirmed Victor's arrival in Seattle 2 days ago, but he'd vanished from their surveillance. Richard had doubled Sophie's security detail in response. All set, the registrar announced, handing Sophie a participant badge. First round begins in 30 minutes. They found a quiet corner where Anna knelt before Sophie. Remember what we practiced. Stay focused on the board, not the people watching. Sophie nodded solemnly. What if he comes? My father. Anna exchanged a glance with Richard. They'd decided Sophie deserved the truth about Victor. If he comes, Mr. Harrington's security team will handle him. Your job is chess, nothing else. As Sophie was called for her first match, Richard held Anna back. Let me stay with her. The press wants you outside. Anna hesitated, maternal instinct warring with strategy. Finally, she nodded. Stay close to her. The press conference had been Richard's idea, a preemptive strike against Victor's inevitable counterattack. As Anna stepped to the microphones, cameras clicked frantically. 6 years ago, I was falsely accused of cheating, she began, her voice steady. Rather than fight a system designed to protect the powerful men who controlled it, I chose to disappear and protect my child. As she spoke, Richard watched Sophie's first match through the glass doors. The child played with focused intensity, her moves decisive. Her opponent, a boy nearly twice her size, looked increasingly distressed. Victor Renault orchestrated my downfall when I threatened to reveal our relationship and his abuse of power, Anna continued. Today, I'm not seeking redemption or revenge. I'm simply reclaiming the truth. A commotion near the tournament entrance caught Richard's attention. Security guards moved toward a tall man with silver-streaked dark hair, Victor Renault. Richard's pulse quickened as he calculated the distance to Sophie. Inside the tournament hall, Sophie executed a perfect queen's gambit. Her opponent knocked over his king in defeat just as Victor breached the security line. Where is she? Victor's accented voice carried across the hall. Where is my daughter? Sophie looked up, her eyes finding the man instantly. Something passed between them, recognition on a genetic level, before Richard's security surrounded her. As Victor was restrained, his gaze locked not on Sophie but on Anna, who had rushed to the doorway. You think this changes anything? Victor snarled. You've just exposed her to the same world that destroyed you. Anna stepped forward, her voice quiet but carrying. No, Victor. I've taught her to face it head-on. Something I should have done years ago. She moved to Sophie, placing protective hands on her shoulders. And she has something I never had. People who will stand beside her, not tear her down. Richard watched as Victor's face contorted with rage, then smoothed into the calculating mask of a strategist reassessing the board. "This isn't over," Victor promised as security escorted him out. "No," Anna agreed, her eyes meeting Richard's across the room. "It's just beginning." As cameras captured the moment, Richard realized something had fundamentally changed. In protecting Anna and Sophie, he'd found something his billions could never buy, a family worth fighting for. Sophie's victory in the Northwestern Children's Chess Open sent ripples through the chess community. Headlines proclaimed, "Daughter of disgraced champion dominates junior tournament, and the Silent Queen's legacy continues." But it was the legal notices that occupied Richard's attention that crisp October morning. Victor filed for partial custody, he informed Anna, who stood by the window of his home office, watching Sophie practice chess moves on the garden patio below. His lawyers claim he only recently discovered Sophie's existence. Anna's laugh was brittle. "He's known since before she was born. He told me to take care of it when I told him I was pregnant." Richard set down the legal papers. "We have that in writing." "No," Anna admitted, turning from the window. "It was in his Moscow apartment. No witnesses. Your word against his." Richard sighed. "His legal team is arguing that by coming forward publicly, you've demonstrated a pattern of withholding his daughter from him." Anna's composure slipped. "He's using the system against me. Again." Over the past month, Richard had watched Anna transform from his quiet housekeeper into a fierce advocate for herself and Sophie. The woman he'd employed for nearly a year had been a shadow of her true self, and he found himself increasingly drawn to her authentic strength. "We'll fight this," Richard promised. "I've hired the best family law attorneys in the country." "Money doesn't always win, Richard." Anna returned to the window. "Not against power like Victor's. He's now president of the International Chess Federation. Half the judges in family court probably play chess with him." Richard moved beside her, their shoulders nearly touching as they watched Sophie below. "Then we don't just fight legally, we fight publicly." "What do you mean?" "Victor cares about his reputation more than anything," Richard explained. "We make this custody battle so visible, so scrutinized, that he can't manipulate it from the shadows." Anna considered this, using the media attention from Sophie's win. "Exactly. Your story has captured the public's imagination, the wronged chess queen in hiding, raising a prodigy daughter. People are invested now." "And you?" Anna asked quietly. "How invested are you?" The question carried weight beyond the legal battle. Richard had crossed boundaries he'd never anticipated when he'd hired Anna Wilson. The billionaire tech CEO and his housekeeper, it sounded like a cliché, yet nothing about their connection felt ordinary. "All in," he answered simply. Their moment was interrupted by Richard's security chief entering with an update. "Mr. Renault has requested a private meeting with Ms. Wilson, no lawyers." Anna straightened. "When?" "Tomorrow. His message says it's in Sophie's best interest to meet without legal teams." Richard immediately objected. "Absolutely not. Everything goes through counsel." "I'll meet him," Anna decided, surprising them both. "Anna, that's exactly what he wants," Richard protested. "To isolate you, manipulate you. I know Victor better than anyone," she interrupted. "He won't stop with legal maneuvers. If I refuse to meet, he'll find another way to get to Sophie." Her gaze was resolute. "But I won't meet him alone." Richard understood her implication. "I'll be there." Later that evening, after Sophie had been tucked into bed, Richard found Anna in his library, studying old chess matches on a laptop. "Preparing for tomorrow?" he asked. "Victor always had patterns," she explained, not looking up. "In chess and in life. He favors psychological warfare over direct confrontation." Richard sat across from her. "Tell me about him," The real Victor Renault. Anna closed the laptop. Brilliant but cruel. He cultivates an image of sophistication, but he's vindictive to his core. He can't stand losing, especially to a woman. Is that why he framed you? Because you could beat him? Partly. Anna's fingers traced the edge of the table. But mostly because I was leaving him. He said if he couldn't have me, no one in chess would. Her eyes met Richard's. Victor doesn't love Sophie. He just can't stand that I've created something beautiful without him. Richard reached across the table, covering her hand with his. You won't face him alone this time. Anna turned her hand upward, their palms meeting. I haven't thanked you properly for everything you've done. You don't need to thank me. Richard's voice softened. You and Sophie. You've given meaning to all this. He gestured vaguely to his mansion. Anna leaned forward slightly. The billionaire found purpose beyond his money. Something like that. Richard smiled, then grew serious. Whatever happens tomorrow with Victor, I want you to know that... A small voice interrupted from the doorway. Mom? I had a bad dream. They turned to see Sophie in her pajamas, clutching her chess queen. Anna immediately went to her, kneeling to embrace her daughter. Was it about him? Anna asked softly. About meeting your father? Sophie nodded against her mother's shoulder. He was taking me away on a big boat. Richard watched as Anna comforted Sophie, struck by the bond between them. In that moment, he made a silent vow. Victor Renault would never separate this mother and child. Not while Richard had breath in his body and resources at his command. As Anna led Sophie back to bed, she glanced over her shoulder at Richard. Their earlier conversation suspended, but not forgotten. Something had shifted between them, an acknowledgement of feelings neither had expected. Tomorrow they would face Victor together. Tonight, Richard returned to his computer, making calls to sources who owed him favors. By morning, he would know every weakness Victor Renault possessed. The Fairmont Olympic Hotel's private dining room offered discretion for the wealthy and powerful. Richard had specifically requested this venue for their meeting with Victor, ensuring his security team could control access and surveillance. Remember, Richard murmured as they waited, we're recording everything. Don't let him provoke you. Anna nodded, adjusting the sleeves of her tailored navy suit, a far cry from the housekeeper's uniform she'd worn for so long. I've played Victor across a chessboard dozens of times. This is just another match. The door opened, and Victor Renault entered with the confident stride of a man accustomed to deference. Tall and distinguished at 53, with penetrating grey eyes and an aristocratic bearing, he exuded European refinement. Elizabeth, he greeted in accented English, deliberately using her former name. His gaze flicked dismissively to Richard. I requested a private meeting. It's Anna now, she corrected firmly, and Richard stays. Victor's smile didn't reach his eyes as he took a seat across from them. How touching, the billionaire and the maid. Richard felt Anna tense beside him, but admired how her expression remained neutral. Chess players were skilled at masking their thoughts. You requested this meeting, Victor, Anna said calmly. What do you want? What every father wants, time with his child. Victor spread his hands in a gesture of reasonableness. Surely you don't intend to deny Sophie her heritage, her rightful place in the chess world? Heritage, Anna's voice sharpened. You denied her existence before she was born. Victor sighed theatrically. We both said things in the heat of anger. I've regretted our falling out every day since. He leaned forward. But now I see our daughter has inherited our gifts. She belongs in the international arena, not hidden away in some American suburb. Sophie stays with me, Anna stated flatly. Of course, Victor agreed too easily. I'm proposing shared custody, summers and holidays with me in Europe, training with grandmasters, tournament seasons together, the rest of the year with you. Richard intervened. And the custody filing? That's your idea of good faith? Victor's gaze hardened. A necessary legal formality. I can withdraw it today if we reach an agreement. He slid a document across the table. I've prepared reasonable terms. Anna didn't touch the papers. And if I refuse? The temperature in the room seemed to drop as Victor's mask of civility slipped. Then I'll use every resource at my disposal to prove you're an unfit mother. Your history of mental instability, your years living under false identity, your exploitation of Sophie's talent. That's enough, Richard cut in sharply. Victor's attention shifted fully to Richard for the first time. Mr. Harrington, your involvement is curious, playing white knight to the damsel. Or perhaps you simply enjoy collecting rare things, companies, art, now a chess prodigy and her mother. Richard maintained his composure with effort. My relationship with Anna and Sophie is not your concern. Everything about my daughter concerns me, Victor countered. His gaze returned to Anna. You have 24 hours to accept my terms. After that, I proceed with litigation and public revelations about your unstable past. Anna leaned forward. What revelations, Victor? That you groomed a 19-year-old player? That you threatened to destroy my career when I wanted to leave you? That you told me to abort our child? Victor's expression didn't change, but a muscle twitched in his jaw. Allegations without proof. Meanwhile, I have documentation of your erratic behavior, witness statements about your paranoia during tournaments. Fabricated, Anna said with certainty. Perhaps. Victor stood. But ask yourself, do you want Sophie to endure years of ugly court battles, to read tabloid stories about her mother's breakdown, to have her own motivations questioned every time she wins a match? He straightened his Italian suit. Or would you prefer an arrangement that benefits everyone, especially Sophie's chess career? As Victor turned to leave, Richard made a decision. Before you go, there's something you should know. Victor paused, one eyebrow raised. My company's cybersecurity team recently uncovered some interesting communications from 2019, Richard said conversationally. Emails between you and 3 tournament judges discussing how to handle the Elizabeth situation. Fascinating reading. The flicker of uncertainty in Victor's eyes confirmed Richard's gamble. The emails existed. Richard's team had found them buried in archived servers, but they needed time to authenticate them properly. Careful, Mr. Harrington, Victor warned. Slander has consequences. So does perjury in custody hearings, Richard replied evenly. 24 hours works both ways, Mr. Renault. I suggest you reconsider your approach. After Victor left, Anna turned to Richard. Do those emails really exist? Yes, Richard affirmed. We're still recovering the full thread, but they prove conspiracy. For the first time since Victor entered, Anna's composure cracked. She covered her face briefly, shoulders shaking with silent emotion. Richard reached for her hand. Anna. When she looked up, her eyes shone with unshed tears. For 6 years, I thought I was crazy. That maybe I had imagined the conspiracy against me. She squeezed his hand. You found proof. We're not done yet, Richard cautioned. Victor won't give up easily. Neither will I, Anna vowed. Not anymore. Die. The Seattle rain drummed steadily against the windows of Richard's home as he reviewed financial projections with his executive team via video conference. His attention drifted repeatedly to the sound of laughter echoing from the adjacent room, where Anna was coaching Sophie through advanced chess strategies. Richard, your thoughts on the Beijing expansion? His CFO prompted. Proceed as discussed, Richard decided quickly. Email me the final numbers. As he ended the call, his security chief appeared in the doorway. Sir, there's been a development with the Renault situation. Richard tensed. 2 weeks had passed since their confrontation with Victor. The custody battle had intensified, with both sides filing motions and counter-motions. The recovered emails had proven useful, but not definitive. Some had been permanently deleted from the servers. What is it? He's gone public. Major chess publications, sports networks, even mainstream news. The security chief handed Richard a tablet displaying headlines: Chess Federation President fights for custody of prodigy daughter, and Victor Renault claims ex-champion hid daughter for years. Richard scanned the articles, his jaw tightening. He's playing the victim, claiming he only recently discovered Sophie's existence. There's more. The security chief hesitated. He's released medical records suggesting Ms. Wilson suffered psychological breaks during tournaments. Claims she was diagnosed with paranoid tendencies. Fabricated, Richard muttered, remembering Anna's words. Possibly, but they looked legitimate, and he's pushing for an emergency psychological evaluation of Ms. Wilson as part of the custody proceedings. Richard set down the tablet. Where are Anna and Sophie now? In the library. We've increased security as requested. Good. Keep them away from news and social media for now. After his security chief departed, Richard sat motionless, thinking. Victor had escalated beyond legal channels, taking their battle to the court of public opinion. The strategy was clear: paint Anna as unstable and himself as the concerned father seeking to protect his daughter. Richard found Anna and Sophie in the library, deep in concentration over a chess problem. The domesticity of the scene struck him forcefully, how quickly they had become the center of his world. "Sophie," he said gently, "would you mind if I borrowed your mom for a few minutes?" The child looked up with serious eyes. "Is it about my father?" Anna and Richard exchanged a glance. They'd been transparent with Sophie about the custody situation, believing honesty was better than leaving her to imagine worst-case scenarios. "Yes," Richard admitted. "Adult, boring legal stuff." Sophie returned to her chess pieces. "I'll work on the Ruy Lopez variation while you talk." In Richard's study, Anna absorbed the news about Victor's media campaign with surprising calm. "I expected this. Victor always preferred psychological warfare to direct confrontation." "These medical records," Richard began cautiously, "is there any truth to them?" Anna met his gaze directly. "I saw a tournament psychologist twice after particularly stressful matches, standard practice for many players. Victor had influence over the Chess Federation's medical team." She crossed her arms. "Whatever those records say, they've been manipulated." Richard believed her, but courts required evidence. "We need to counter this narrative quickly." "With what?" Anna asked. "Victor has the chess world's ear. I disappeared for 6 years. In their eyes, that confirms I was unstable." Richard moved to his computer. "Then we changed the audience. This isn't just about chess anymore. It's about a mother fighting for her child against a powerful man who abandoned them." Over the next hour, they crafted their response. A deeply personal interview with Anna, accompanied by documentation of her stable life with Sophie. Richard called in favors from media contacts, ensuring their story would receive equal attention. As they worked, the professional boundaries between them continued to blur. Richard found himself watching Anna, her determination, her fierce intelligence, her unwavering focus on protecting Sophie. The woman he'd once known only as his efficient housekeeper had transformed before his eyes into someone both familiar and fascinatingly new. "What?" Anna asked, catching his gaze. "I was just thinking," Richard said quietly, "how remarkable you are." A flush colored her cheeks. "I'm a mother protecting her child. Nothing remarkable about that. You gave up your identity, your career, everything you'd worked for, to protect Sophie." Richard moved closer. "Now you're fighting one of the most powerful men in chess, with the world watching. I'd call that remarkable." Anna looked away. "I ran before. I should have fought." "You did what was necessary then." You're doing what's necessary now. Richard's voice softened. Anna, Elizabeth, whoever you choose to be, His security system chimed, interrupting the moment. The monitor displayed a black sedan approaching the gate. "We're not expecting anyone," Richard said, instantly alert. The camera zoomed in on the visitor, a woman in her 50s with silver-streaked dark hair. Recognition flashed across Anna's face. "Irina Petrova," she whispered. "Victor's ex-wife." Richard tensed. What would she want? "I don't know," Anna admitted. "We never met. She was always the shadowy wife Victor was supposedly leaving." Richard contacted security. "Verify her identity before allowing entry. Full security protocol." 20 minutes later, Irina Petrova sat across from them in Richard's living room, her posture rigid, her accent thicker than Victor's. "I will be direct," she began without preamble. "Victor has destroyed many lives. I will not let him destroy your daughters." Anna leaned forward. "Why are you here, Mrs. Petrova?" Irina opened her handbag, removing a USB drive. "Because I have what you need to defeat him." "He called them his chess pieces," Irina Petrova explained, her voice steady despite the damning evidence displayed on Richard's computer screen. "Young female players he could control, manipulate, use for his advancement." The USB drive contained years of meticulously documented evidence, financial records showing bribes to tournament officials, medical reports altered with the complicity of Federation doctors, and most disturbingly, a pattern of relationships with young female chess players whom Victor had mentored, then discarded. "I knew about the others," Anna admitted, her expression grim, "not the extent of it." "Why come forward now?" Richard asked, studying the woman across from them. Irina Petrova carried herself with dignified composure, but her eyes revealed years of suffering. "Our divorce was finalized last month," Irina answered. "The agreement included my silence about his indiscretions, but it said nothing about business records from our shared accounts." She gestured to the screen. "I managed the finances for 30 years of marriage. I kept copies of everything." Richard examined the documents carefully. These would destroy his credibility in court, possibly end his career. "That is the intention," Irina confirmed. She turned to Anna. "When I saw the news about you and your daughter, I recognized his pattern beginning again. Sophie would become another pawn in his game." Anna's voice was barely audible. "Why didn't you help the others? Why didn't you help me 6 years ago?" Irina didn't flinch from the accusation. "Fear, complicity, self-preservation. Choose whichever you like. They are all true." Her gaze didn't waver. "I cannot change the past, but perhaps I can prevent another child from suffering." A heavy silence filled the room as Anna processed this unexpected alliance with the woman whose husband she'd once loved. Finally, she nodded. "Thank you for coming forward." After Irina departed, Anna and Richard sat in his study, the weight of the evidence before them. "This ends Victor's custody claim," Richard stated with certainty. "No judge would grant him access to Sophie after seeing this." "If we use it," Anna said quietly. Richard stared at her. "What do you mean, if?" "This is exactly what we needed." Anna stood, pacing the room. "Using this means exposing Victor completely. The scandal would rock the entire chess world." She looked troubled. "Many innocent people would be affected, tournaments questioned, championships delegitimized. You're worried about the chess world after what they did to you?" "I'm worried about Sophie," Anna corrected. "She loves chess. This scandal would follow her forever, the girl whose father corrupted the game, whose mother exposed it all." She shook her head. "Every victory she ever achieves would be tainted by this history." Richard moved to stand before her. "Then what do you suggest? Allow Victor partial custody?" "Never," Anna said fiercely. "But perhaps there's another way." She took a deep breath. "A private settlement. We present this evidence to Victor alone. In exchange for him dropping all custody claims and leaving our lives permanently, we keep his secrets. Richard considered this. Blackmail. Chess, Anna countered. A strategic sacrifice to achieve a winning position. Before Richard could respond, his phone rang, his security team. "Mr. Harrington, we have a situation. Sophie is missing." The world tilted on its axis as Richard and Anna raced through the house, security personnel reporting details through earpieces. Sophie had been reading in the garden. The guard assigned to her had turned away briefly to check a perimeter alarm. When he turned back, she was gone. "Check the security cameras," Richard ordered, fighting to stay calm as Anna grew increasingly frantic beside him. "Already done, sir. There's a 7-minute blind spot in the garden coverage. Someone looped the feed professionally." Anna clutched Richard's arm. "Victor, this is Victor." Richard's security chief approached with a tablet. "Sir, this was just emailed to Ms. Wilson's account." The video showed Sophie sitting in what appeared to be a hotel room, a chessboard before her. Victor's voice came from off-camera. "Your move, Elizabeth." Anna's legs gave way. Richard caught her, lowering her to a chair as she stared at the screen in horror. He took her. He actually took her. Richard knelt before her, gripping her shoulders. "Anna, listen to me. We will find her. I promise you." "How?" Anna's voice cracked. "Victor has connections everywhere. If he gets her out of the country, he won't," Richard stated with deadly certainty. "I've already alerted authorities. Every airport, train station and border crossing is being watched." The tablet chimed with another message, a text this time. "One player, one meeting, the Fairmont, Suite 1412. Come alone or forfeit the game." Anna stood immediately. "I have to go." "Absolutely not," Richard objected. "This is exactly what he wants, to isolate you." "He has Sophie." Anna's composure shattered completely. "I don't care what he wants." Richard gripped her arms gently. "Anna, think. Victor is playing chess. He's setting up a board where he controls all the pieces." He looked into her eyes, willing her to understand. "We need to change the game." Something shifted in Anna's expression, the panic receding, replaced by the calculating focus he'd glimpsed when she played chess. "You're right," she said finally. "This isn't just about me and Victor anymore." Together, they formulated a plan. As Anna prepared to meet Victor's demands, Richard activated resources few knew he possessed. Former intelligence operatives now working in his corporate security division, technological surveillance capabilities beyond standard police resources, and financial leverage that could open any door. Before Anna left, Richard pulled her into a fierce embrace. "Be careful," he whispered against her hair. "Both of you come back to me." Anna drew back slightly, studying his face. In the midst of crisis, something crystallized between them. An acknowledgement of feelings that had grown far beyond employer and employee, beyond friends, beyond allies. "We will," she promised, and kissed him briefly, intensely, before walking toward the waiting car. Richard watched her leave, then turned to his security team. "Initiate Operation Checkmate." The Fairmont Hotel's 12th floor was eerily quiet as Anna exited the elevator, her footsteps muffled by plush carpeting. Two of Victor's Chess Federation security personnel flanked Suite 1412, their expressions impassive as they searched her for weapons or recording devices. "You came alone," one noted with surprise. "As instructed," Anna replied coldly. "Where is my daughter?" They opened the door without answering. Inside, the suite's opulent living room had been arranged like a stage. Chess table in the center, Sophie seated on one side, her small face tight with suppressed fear. "Sophie!" Anna started forward, but Victor emerged from an adjoining room, halting her progress. "Not yet, Elizabeth." He gestured to the empty chair across from Sophie. "First, we play." Anna's gaze never left her daughter. "Are you all right, sweetheart?" Sophie nodded, her voice small but steady. "He says we have to play chess," Then we can go home." Victor smiled indulgently. "A father-daughter match. Is that so terrible?" Anna fought to control her rage. Every maternal instinct screamed to grab Sophie and run, but Victor's guards blocked the exit. She needed to play along, for now. "One game," Anna agreed, taking the seat opposite Sophie. "Then we leave, together." "Of course." Victor circled the table like a presenter at a championship match, a simple contest. "If Sophie wins, you both may leave freely. If she loses," he shrugged, "then we renegotiate custody on my terms." Anna stared at him in disbelief. "You're gambling our daughter's future on a chess game, using her as a pawn." "Teaching her life's most valuable lesson," Victor corrected, "that everything is negotiable." He placed a hand on Sophie's shoulder, making Anna flinch. "Besides, you've trained her well, haven't you? If she's truly gifted, she should win easily." Anna met Sophie's frightened eyes across the board, sending silent reassurance. She knew what Victor was doing, creating impossible pressure, ensuring Sophie would make mistakes. "I refuse," Anna stated flatly. "This is between you and me, Victor. Leave Sophie out of it." Victor's pleasant mask slipped momentarily. "You are not in a position to refuse. Play the game, or I exercise my parental rights and take Sophie with me tonight. My jet is waiting." A subtle vibration from Anna's watch confirmed that Richard's team was in position. All she needed was to buy time. "Fine," she relented, "but I play against you, not Sophie." Victor considered this, then nodded. "Even better. Like old times." He gestured for Sophie to vacate her seat, which he took with practiced grace. "White or black?" "Black," Anna chose, knowing Victor preferred white, the first move advantage. As they arranged the pieces, Anna pretended to fumble, dropping a pawn. As she bent to retrieve it, she whispered to Sophie, who stood nearby, "Remember the castle drill." Sophie's tiny nod was barely perceptible. The game began with Victor playing aggressively, as was his style. Anna responded with uncharacteristic errors, appearing distracted and emotional, exactly what he would expect from a distraught mother. "Your game has suffered during your sabbatical," Victor observed, capturing her knight. Anna made another seemingly careless move. "Motherhood changes priorities." Victor advanced his queen, clearly anticipating a swift victory. "A shame. You had such potential." 10 moves in, Anna's position looked hopeless. Victor smiled triumphantly, reaching for his water glass. As he took a sip, Anna caught Sophie's eye and nodded almost imperceptibly. Sophie suddenly clutched her stomach. "I don't feel good," she whimpered convincingly. Victor frowned. "What's wrong with her?" "She needs her medication," Anna improvised, rising quickly. "It's in my purse." As Anna moved toward her handbag near the door, Sophie darted away from the table toward the bathroom. Victor's security guards hesitated, unsure which potential threat to address. In that moment of confusion, Anna executed their plan. Rather than reaching for her purse, she threw open the suite door. Richard's security team rushed in, followed by federal agents. "Victor Renault," the lead agent announced, "you're under arrest for kidnapping and international parental abduction." The chaos that followed was precisely as Richard had predicted. Victor's security personnel surrendered without resistance when confronted by federal badges. Victor himself seemed unable to comprehend his circumstances, protesting diplomatic immunity through his connection to the Chess Federation. Anna found Sophie in the bathroom, huddled in the tub. "It's okay now, baby," she soothed, gathering her daughter into her arms. "You did perfectly. We're going home." As they emerged, Victor was being handcuffed. He looked at Anna with cold fury. "This changes nothing. I have resources, connections." "What you have," interrupted a familiar voice, "is evidence of criminal conspiracy against you." Richard entered the suite, Accompanied by Irina Petrova and a distinguished older man Anna recognized as the U.S. Attorney for the Western District. Ms. Petrova has provided comprehensive documentation of your financial crimes, Mr. Renault, the attorney explained. Wire fraud, bribery of sports officials, tax evasion across multiple jurisdictions. Combined with tonight's kidnapping charges, you're facing substantial prison time. Victor's composure finally cracked. This is absurd. Irina signed a confidentiality agreement, which specifically excluded financial records, Irina interjected calmly. You should have read it more carefully, Victor. As Victor was led away, still protesting, Richard approached Anna and Sophie. Without hesitation, he enfolded them both in a protective embrace. Are you all right? He asked Sophie gently. The child nodded against his chest. I remembered the castle drill like Mom taught me. Distract, then move to safety. Richard smiled. Chess strategies work in real life too, it seems. Over Sophie's head, his eyes met Anna's. In the midst of chaos, their connection felt like the only stable thing in the world. Let's go home, Anna whispered. As they left the hotel, reporters had already gathered in the lobby. Victor's arrest was breaking news. Richard shielded Anna and Sophie, guiding them through a service exit to his waiting car. Inside the vehicle, Sophie finally succumbed to exhaustion, falling asleep against her mother's shoulder. Anna stroked her daughter's hair, tears of relief flowing freely. It's really over, she asked Richard quietly. Victor won't threaten you again, he confirmed. Between the kidnapping charges and Irina's evidence, he'll be fighting legal battles for years. Anna looked down at her sleeping daughter. She was so brave. Like her mother, Richard said softly. He hesitated, then took Anna's free hand. When I thought I might lose you both today. Anna turned her palm to meet his. You didn't. As the city lights streamed past the car windows, Anna allowed herself to imagine a future without fear, a future where she was neither Elizabeth Winters, the chess champion, nor Anna Wilson, the housekeeper, but simply herself, with her daughter safe beside her. And perhaps, she thought as she looked at Richard, with someone who saw and valued her complete self. 1 year later, the Seattle Arts Center buzzed with excitement. The inaugural Chess for All tournament, founded by Richard Harrington and Anna Wilson, had drawn participants from across the country, with special emphasis on young girls from underprivileged backgrounds. Richard adjusted his tie nervously as he prepared to address the crowd. Is my speech okay? Speech? He asked Anna, who stood beside him in an elegant blue dress. Perfect, she assured him, straightening his lapel with the easy intimacy they'd developed. Though I still think you should mention the scholarship program. Already added it, Richard grinned, pulling a folded paper from his pocket. See, I do listen occasionally. Only when it suits you, Anna teased, the lightness in her manner a marked contrast to the woman he'd first met nearly 2 years ago. The past year had brought dramatic changes. Victor Renault had eventually accepted a plea deal, resigning from the Chess Federation and relinquishing all parental claims to Sophie in exchange for reduced charges. Irina Petrova had emerged as an unexpected ally, using her portion of the divorce settlement to establish a foundation supporting female chess players affected by harassment and discrimination. As for Anna and Richard, their relationship had evolved gradually and deliberately. After Victor's arrest, Anna had insisted on moving out of Richard's mansion into a modest apartment nearby, needing to establish independence before exploring what existed between them. Richard had respected her boundaries while making his intentions clear. Whenever she was ready, he would be waiting. It had taken 3 months before their first official date, 6 before Anna allowed Sophie to know they were more than friends, and 9 before she'd finally moved back into Richard's home, this time not as an employee, but as his partner. There she is, Anna said suddenly, pointing across the crowded hall where Sophie sat deep in concentration over a chess match with a girl twice her age. At 8 years old, Sophie had blossomed over the past year. With the shadow of Victor's threats removed, she'd developed a healthier relationship with chess, playing because she loved it, not because she needed to prove herself. She still competed occasionally, but also enjoyed normal childhood activities, soccer, painting, and a newfound passion for astronomy. "She's winning," Richard observed. "Of course she is," Anna replied with motherly pride, "but more importantly, she's enjoying herself." The tournament director approached, indicating it was time for Richard's opening speech. As founder and primary benefactor, he'd been asked to welcome the participants. Richard took the stage to polite applause, gazing out at the diverse crowd of chess enthusiasts. "Welcome to the first annual Chess for All tournament," he began. "Many of you know me as a tech entrepreneur, but few know that chess changed my life." His eyes found Anna in the crowd, "Not because I was particularly good at it, I'm adequate at best, but because chess brought two extraordinary people into my life who taught me its most important lesson, that kings and pawns all end up in the same box when the game is over. What matters is how you play, who you play with, and why you're playing in the first place." As he continued his speech, announcing scholarships and mentorship programs, Richard reflected on how completely his priorities had shifted. The man who'd once measured success in acquisitions and profit margins now found his greatest joy in the family he'd unexpectedly created. After the speech, Richard found Anna in the competitors area, helping Sophie prepare for her next match. "That was beautiful," Anna said, rising to greet him. "The speech, I mean." "I meant every word," Richard replied, then knelt to Sophie's level. "How's it going, champion?" Sophie grinned, revealing a newly missing tooth. "I'm in the semi-finals, but Sarah's really good. She knows the Sicilian defense better than me." "Then use something unexpected," Richard suggested. "That's what your mom would do." Sophie nodded seriously, then looked between them. "Are you going to ask her now?" Richard's eyes widened. "Sophie, that was supposed to be our secret." Anna looked between them suspiciously. "Ask me what?" Sophie covered her mouth, but her eyes danced with excitement. "Oops, sorry, Richard." Richard sighed dramatically, then smiled at Anna. "I had a whole evening planned. Dinner overlooking the Sound, violin players, the works." He reached into his pocket, withdrawing a small velvet box. "But I've learned that in chess and in life, sometimes you have to adapt your strategy." Anna's breath caught as he opened the box, revealing a ring with a single perfect diamond. "Anna Wilson, or Elizabeth Winters, or whoever you choose to be tomorrow, will you marry me?" Around them, tournament participants and spectators fell silent, witnessing the unexpected proposal. Sophie bounced on her toes with barely contained excitement. Anna's eyes filled with tears as she looked at Richard, the man who had seen beyond her disguise, who had fought for her and Sophie when they needed an ally most, who had given her the space to reclaim herself before asking for a place in her heart. "Yes," she whispered, then louder, "Yes." As Richard slipped the ring onto her finger, applause erupted throughout the hall. Sophie launched herself at both of them, creating a three-person embrace that felt like the most natural thing in the world. Later, as Sophie competed in her semi-final match, Richard and Anna stood hand in hand among the spectators. "You know," Anna said quietly, "when I first came to work for you, I never imagined this outcome." Richard squeezed her hand. "When you beat me at chess that night, I knew my life had changed. I just didn't understand how completely." "Check!" Sophie called triumphantly from her table, her opponent's king trapped in an elegant combination. Anna leaned her head against Richard's shoulder as they watched the daughter they now shared navigate her way to victory. "I spent years thinking I needed to hide who I was to protect Sophie," she reflected. "It turns out I needed to embrace who I am, all of me, to truly give her the mother she deserves. I'm in the future she deserves, Richard added softly. As Sophie's opponent tipped over her king in resignation, the young girl looked up, finding her mother and Richard in the crowd. Her smile of pure joy reflected everything they had fought for, not just survival, but the right to thrive, to play the game on her own terms. The chess pieces had been scattered, the board upended, the rules rewritten, and in the new configuration that emerged, they had all found their rightful places, not as pawns or kings or queens, but as family.